play a few rounds of beer pong to get all sorts of ripped. I'll do another Bret Hart promo, which is pretty fucking good the last time the House of Hughes. Bam, 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 bam.
Did you see the beef on Twitter between Becky Lynch and Edge?
Yeah, they're pretty much working, but it's still great. It's like, I'll take on the one in the household that doesn't have a glass neck and shit like that.
Oh, well, did you see that he said something and she tweeted out a picture and Lita was like, I think you got your redheads mixed up. And then he replied with, hey, just make sure when your boyfriend sends you those naughty pictures, it's actually intended for you or something like that.
We should have harped on that. I think it's really dumb that they're portraying them on screen as a couple. Same as that, we talked about this a long time ago with the Becky and Charlotte storyline. You cheer for the underdog. Nobody likes the popular kid. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's a weird thing where they're like, that's our heavyweight champion, this good-looking guy, and this is our girls' champ. She's a good-looking chick, and they love each other, and this is great. No, we don't fucking like that. Like, I mean, like, I'm a jealous society. Like, I don't think it's a good idea. I think everybody should be more approachable.
I don't know.
So you put them on there where it's just like, you like both of them, right? You like them together. It's like, no, we fucking don't. We don't ever want the popular kid to get the hot girl. I'm good. I got a fresh one.
Anybody else see anything?
We talked about that for the Becky and Charlotte storyline where like Charlotte got the number one contendership even though Becky fought her ass off to earn it. And we're like, we've all been there. We've all, Charlotte didn't do anything wrong. She was just the best. She's the best. She's the most popular. She's the coolest. So like when you really, really like that girl and your popular, handsomer buddy gets the girl, you can't be mad at him. He didn't do anything wrong.
Nah.
But fuck him. And that was the story. And I thought it was really, really good because when Becky turned on Charlotte, you're like, they didn't take to her heel turn. So we're like, no, because we're all that guy. There's 5% of us that's the popular, good-looking kid that got the girl. No, the other 95% of us are like, no, fuck you.
There's 1% of us that's the turd dude that got the girl. That's me.
Fuck you, John Thomas. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's tough for me because I love Becky. Becky is my girl.
So you sitting there happy with her having the on-screen boyfriend then?
But like that's the thing. You'd think I would be pissed, but I like Seth too. So I'm just kind of like, well, if
you're pulling for both of them.
I'm glad it's.
Well, if they're going to do it, they're doing it in such a half-ass way, too. Like, oh, let's just name drop them to toy with Seth, and then, oh, she'll accompany him in the ambulance. But there's nothing really even going on. Why even do it if you're not doing any story?
Well, they set it up with the 24 on Becky. There was a lot of him and her. They were kissing and stuff, like after matches and shit. That's where it really kind of started. I was like, oh, wow, they're actually acknowledging that.
So that's the other thing. You're assuming that everybody's watched that and knew. I have the network and I watch a lot of stuff. I didn't see that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that like it's not necessarily coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
If for somebody that follows that shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's why heels always got over with the hot chick because fuck you for having the hot chick.
They're going to rub it in your face.
Yeah.
Mark Marrow and shit.
Mark Marrow did, but I mean, even more so with like Rusev and Lana was like, fuck you for having the hot chick. Like, I think it helps you get heat more so than be like, oh, look at you. Like, I like you and I like that you got the hot girlfriend. No, we don't feel that way in real life.
Other than Macho Man, but that's because Miss Elizabeth was the most wholesome woman ever.
Wholesome woman ever, and it started off heel.
Yeah.
And they turned babyface organically. We don't want our wrestlers to have the hot chicks. That's what we landed on.
Unless I'm the wrestler or you're the wrestler. I'm not a wrestler.
Are we pulling for each other on this one now?
I guess.
I don't know if you got into the wrestling business right now, Mark, and got yourself the hot chick before I did. No, see, no, I'm gonna be pissed.
I get it.
I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be the 17-year vet going, what the fuck? How are you getting in here getting the hot chicks? And then I'm probably gonna fight you.
Yeah, that's true.
Which one of us is the heel?
You are.
Okay, I probably am. Yeah, that's true.
Usually the angry one is the heel.
John will tell you that I'm the heel.
He's the heel.
You're the fucking heel.
I try to be a heel, but I admit it, which makes me a face.
Yeah, exactly.
You are not a face in anybody. When me and Alex have had that conversation of who's the heel of your group, it's you.
It is.
We land on you.
I love to live my life that way. I dyed my hair. I bleached my hair blonde last year.
Oh, you were a heel with me.
To be more villainous. I wanted to be an 80s villain.
Your hair has always gotten heat with me.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's fair.
Well, Cody's a babyface. He's got blonde hair. So.
But he originally bleached to be a villain, and
He's not a baby face.
He got a hot black girlfriend too, like me. So
then I hate him even more.
He's kind of a baby face. I mean, he's not really anything. What has he done lately?
He's smashing thrones with a sledgehammer for a cheap pop.
That makes him a heel?
Oh, he fought his brother on the terms of trying to eliminate him in his era. I mean,
and
it's kind of a heel move.
Cheating. Yeah, he was
I guess
healing
that's
that.
true.
He was
I guess.
healing that.
You're right.
She tried to interfere for him.
Yeah, you're not gonna. And Dustin's really never gonna be healed. You're not gonna boo the 50-year-old guy who's wrestling better than he ever had.
No.
So he's kind of permanent babyface at this point.
Yeah.
Unlike John Thomas, permanent heel.
Permanent heel.
He's a permanent heel in my book.
That's how I want to live life.
Well, I don't know where we're going to start the episode at that, but I know where we're going to introduce it.
Wherever you want to go in with that. Because the end with that is how we start every episode.
Yeah. We've been doing that a lot lately. The one time we started out talking about the clapper. Do you remember?
Yeah.
A conversation about the clapper.
That was 13, I think. It was 13 where...
Unlucky 13, I
Unlucky
guess.
13 where I got all fired up. Go back and watch in the archives, kids. It's
Slamming beer
I don't
cans.
know how accurate that is.
I was pissed about 13, man. That got me all fired up.
That was
It was a good one, though. It was a good one.
That was you being a voice of the people.
A little bit on that one. I think so. I don't think I was terribly wrong on that one. Some might think I'm wrong on my... Now, 14 came along with my AEW bitter old man shit. I might have spiraled
The
in.
voice of Jim Cornette.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say... Jim Cornette's going to be out there tapping on the window with his tennis racket. God damn, Jerry, you know what the fuck you're talking about. Motherfucker. Come out with a double cheese. Goddamn extra onions, extra mayo, motherfucker.
Wow.
Fuck you, Mark.
Wow.
That's Jim Cornette. That's not me. I love you, bud.
I know.
I love you. By the way, y'all know I am, I shouldn't announce it because we're not announcing it. If anybody listen, I'm going to be taking on rock and roll Ricky Morton here.
Are you really?
Yeah, in a couple of months.
Holy shit.
Which I totally plan on telling him how much better the Midnight Express were than the Rock and Roll Express. And we're going to have ourselves a wrestling match. We'll see how it goes. I've already told myself that I'm just going to go out there and just do Bobby Eaton spots the entire time. Wrestle no, I don't even know what my style is, but I'm not going to wrestle it at all. It's just going to be a Bobby Eaton ripoff.
All right.
And wrestle Ricky Morton with that.
I'm okay with that.
Teach him how to rock and roll. Because goddamn Midnight Express, motherfucker. Greatest tag team of all time. Beautiful Bobby, sweet Stan.
Can you guys tell Jared's got a couple beers in him this episode?
I'm fired up now. Now I'm happy. Well, we're not going to be happy later.
No.
I know why you're happy.
Well, before we get started, do you ever watch any Midnight Express stuff?
No,
That's my favorite tag team of all time.
You know, it's I think I expressed.
Did you do a pun?
No. One of the people we're going to talk about in this podcast, the way I got into him was going back because you just don't appreciate the same things when you're older as when you did as a kid. And then I could go back and watch them, and it's just not my thing. Just not my thing.
Can we watch a Midnight Express after this podcast, Mark?
If you want to, we got internet again.
We got the internet.
Yeah.
John, you're sticking around watching Midnight
That's
Express.
fine.
That's the price you pay for being on our 2 podcasts.
On episode number 16.
16 now. You got to watch the Midnight Express with Jerrod, and if you don't like it, you're going to be sitting close enough to me where I can punch you. So, yeah.
That's fair.
That is all fair. I think it's a fair exchange. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
And with that,
This is Ohio Wrestlecast number 16. I am Mark Thomas. This is Jerrod Griffiths, a.k.a. Wilbur Whitlock.
with our special guest.
Yeah, joining us again.
John Thomas, again, no relation to Mark Thomas.
No relation, but joining us again for the second straight episode because we did episode 15 where we just talked about the current product, talk shop, man, just talk wrestling in general, talk about AEW, NXT, WWE, talk about what wrestling meant to us. Had a lot of fun with that, but there was one recurring topic that very controversial on one of our earlier episodes. Was it like 6 or 7? Our overrated, underrated episode?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I should do the research.
Maybe.
We had an overrated, underrated episode. And I said the most overrated WWF superstar was Bret the Hitman Hart. And now, I mean, I did this for reaction. I did this so people could have an opinion on it because I am not an anti-Hitman guy. We'll just get that out of the way.
Aside from like maybe real life hitmen.
Even then, I kind of, with the actual Hitman, people that kill people?
Depending on the hit, probably.
Oh, okay. No, well, Bret the Hitman is okay in my book. I just don't feel that it should be in an Mount Rushmore discussion. I don't think it should be in a top 5 discussion. I don't think he's one of the best all time. I don't think so. That's my opinion. That was what was we discussed in that previous podcast. But we have our friend John, who's not only a Hitman fan because Mark's a Hitman fan. I mean, there's plenty of us who are Bret Hart fans. Our friend John is a fanatic, and he's going to be on here to counterpoint with us as we talk about the career and the influence of Bret the Hitman Hart. I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. What do you guys think?
I agree, sir.
He's the best there is.
Was he the best there was?
The best there ever will be.
Yeah, if you don't believe it, just ask him.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go back, man. Let's, and again, we'll just timeline things here. I'm 34, and you're, what,
30.
30, and Mark, you're...
I'll be 32 in August. So, yeah.
So I'm a few years older than you guys. And in most realms, that's not that big of a difference, but in pro wrestling, it is because I remember the Hart Foundation being a legitimate tag team. I remember them being one of the top tag teams. I don't really remember them as heels. That's when they came in as heels. So they were on WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3, they were heels. They actually turned babyface WrestleMania 4. Bret was the last one eliminated by Bad News Brown in a Battle Royal, and that turned him babyface. But they had a decent run as heels. I remember them more as babyfaces, having matches against Demolition, having babyface matches against the Rockers, having matches against the Brainbusters. There's a great match against Arn and Tully in 1989. Again, I'm 5 years old, so I barely remember that. You guys...
I was 0.
Yeah, aren't even there around yet. So there is a difference on the Hart Foundation, but have you guys ever gone back and watching Hart Foundation matches, seeing his stuff with him and Jim the Anvil, and taking him in as a tag wrestler? And if so, what are your opinions?
Not anytime recently. I think I have, maybe with you or Jeff or somebody at one point, but
There's plenty to go back and watch.
I really haven't delved into the network that much. I mean, I went back and watched like some old Raws when they announced that old Raws were on there, but not too much.
To go back to the late 80s, early 90s with Bret and Anvil, you never really watched much Hart Foundation?
No, I do remember in one of the episodes, one of my underrated matches was an extremely bloody match between the British Bulldog and I believe it was Bret Hart. Do you remember?
I don't remember a bloody match between the Bulldogs and the Hearts. They had some really good matches. I'm not sure about a bloody one off the top of my head, though.
British Bulldog bled a lot.
Oh, Davy Boy against Bret yes, that was Hershey, PA, or
exactly.
About where I'm from.
Yeah.
December 95.
So, yeah, I guess I did with that.
That was an incredible match. But, no, I'm thinking even a little bit prior to that. I'm thinking late 80s, early 90s when it was Bret and the Anvil as a team.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how Bret hit the scene in the WWF. So, before we get into Bret's career that we all know, I just seeing if you guys had any memories at all about Hart Foundation stuff.
I watched, obviously I go back and watch Bret matches. There's not a lot with the Hart Foundation that catches me too much. And you can watch their stuff with the Rockers and stuff, but there's not a lot going on in tag team wrestling that was showcased back then. If I'm going to go back to the 80s, it's, the Macho Man Steamboat era stuff. It's pretty much all Macho Man back then. If you're really wanting to watch a real wrestling match.
It's the same era, though, and there was some really good tag wrestling. Yeah, you might have missed the boat. I mean,
I just don't think they had as much competition to showcase.
Yeah, you can't control when you were born, of course, but the Rockers were a great team. Arn and Tully were a great team. Demolition was a great team. The Hearts are a great team. The Rougeaus were a really good team. The British Bulldogs, Strike Force, Tito and Rick Martel. Really good tag teams, and that's only on that company because then over in the NWA, the Steiners were getting started, the Road Warriors, Rock and Roll at Midnight. There was lots of great tag. Doom, Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. There was a lot of great tag team wrestling. That was a really hotbed era for tag team wrestling, and to put over Bret Hart, the Hart Foundation was definitely one of the best. I mean, top 5 of that era, really, without question. And it's impressive because there was a lot of great tag teams then.
When I look back at some of their stuff, they're one of the first teams I feel like, obviously the Steiners as well, but really doing the team moves, really setting it up, like tag a guy in, guy already in, sets him up for something. Bret comes and hits him with something. Really showcases some of that stuff, and then obviously that grew.
The Hearts were great at that. The Rockers were great at that. The Bulldogs, again, Midnight Express, my favorite tag team, great at that stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Tag team wrestling really did evolve in that late '80s era. Tons and tons and tons of great tag team wrestling. I was just trying to piece that together to see what you guys remember, because then Bret really, took off on his own, obviously. But if anybody ever jokes about the Shawn and Marty thing, Bret and the Anvil was really even bigger, just because the Anvil never really took off as a singles career at all. Whereas Bret obviously had a very, 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 very successful singles career, which is what we're going to get into. I'll bring up, the Bret and the Anvil lost the tag team titles at WrestleMania 7, which is in 1991. They lost them to the Nasty Boys. That same summer, Bret beat Mr. Perfect for his first Intercontinental title in 1991. And I'll put myself there as a 7-year-old where I didn't quite understand work rate. I didn't understand, who the best actual in-ring wrestlers were. It wasn't an important thing to me at that point. It was still the Hulk and Macho Man and everything. The big characters were what was important. But if you go back and you watch Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, and us now, us 10, 15 years ago would go, oh my God, I got to see that match. And it was a great, great, great match. That was where Bret beat Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title, and it spawned Bret's single career. Have you guys seen that match?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What do you remember about that?
It's just two guys in their absolute prime, probably even pre-prime. It's
true.
exactly what you think it was.
Perfect was probably right there in his prime, and Bret was a little pre-prime, which is crazy.
It's it's on paper exactly what you would assume it is on video. I don't think there's any. I think they were, over under. I think Mr. Perfect's one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. Guy oozed charisma, just full on. Not even just charisma, but he's a good-looking guy who literally was perfect at everything, and you just want to punch him in the face. And then you add his actual wrestling ability on top of the character. So obviously they.
Without diving
amazing.
too deep into really thinking about who was in Japan or Mexico at the time, I would safely say they were 2 of the top 10 wrestlers in the world at that point. You know what I mean? Bret Hart and Kurt Hennig in 1991.
No, for sure.
Probably 2 of the top 10 best in-ring wrestlers in the world. Have you seen that, Mark? Have you seen that match, Mark?
I have not seen that match, no.
Oh, you're in for a treat. Yeah, you got to go back, watch SummerSlam 91, Madison Square Garden, Bret versus Mr. Perfect. And that was the beginning of Bret's singles career.
Okay.
To be honest. Yeah, he... and now here's the thing. Back then, there is no internet. There is no dirt sheets. Well, there is dirt sheets, but we didn't get them. Where you would have to read, hey, they're going to look to push Bret Hart here. You didn't know. You know what I mean? The Hart Foundation were just a tag team, and they were always a team. And all of a sudden, Bret was wrestling regular matches. And all of a sudden, he was wrestling Mr. Perfect, which, back then, to us, the Intercontinental Belt you were almost the second best.
It pretty much almost always, even at that time and then even later, obviously, if looking back, you're like, oh, that guy's going to be a world champion.
Yeah, you're the next in line. It's grooming you for it. So Mr. Perfect was positioned as a very, very, very top heel. And for Bret to beat him, gave Bret instant credibility, man. He absolutely hit the ground running then as the Intercontinental Champion. Give you his timeline here. He went into the Royal Rumble season where he lost the belt briefly to the Mountie. This is an early case of Bret being Bret. In order for him to lose, he had to have the announcers put over the fact that he had a 104-degree temperature while fighting the Mountie that night. And he was terribly, terribly sick, but he made the match anyway. And he had the Mountie got the win, and then he lost it a few days later to Roddy Piper at the 92 Royal Rumble, which then set up Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 8. And again, this might be a recurring theme. If you haven't seen this match, go watch this match. This is, in my opinion, just without even thinking twice, easily Roddy Piper's best match ever.
Yeah.
There's also a great pre-match promo because they're both baby faces going into this match of them shaking hands and Bret pulling back his fist saying, I could have got you, and Piper with a fist with a belt wrapped around it going, no, you didn't. Like, I mean, it was just awesome. Do you remember seeing that match?
Yeah. And the finish was amazing.
That was the sleeper.
And
The early for the Million Dream, yeah.
And I agree. Other than that, I think if you look back at Piper's career, he's got big moments. Like, he's got the WrestleMania
Big
1
moments,
and 2,
great
but
promos.
not great matches. He's got the moments of the promos and the Piper's pit smashing the coconut. He's got the parking lot brawl with Gold Dust. It's moments. It's not matches, and that's his match.
That's easily the best wrestling match he's ever had. Mark, are we watching a whole bunch of Bret Hart matches after we get off the air here?
I guess so. Yeah. Sorry, I'm also a little preoccupied fucking with the shit over here.
How are we sounding today?
We're not sounding that great.
Oh, no.
But not only that, but I didn't start recording the video until just a little bit ago. We have the audio though.
That's all right.
But
That's all right. I don't ever watch the video. Doesn't matter that much to me.
we have the whole show. I can put the show together. We're good.
Okay, well, I think week 16 and a half has to be Mark watching a whole bunch of Bret Hart matches
I
because
think so.
you're missing out, man, and the promos leading into him really helped too because what leads from 92 where he beats Roddy Piper, WrestleMania 8 regains the Intercontinental title.
Well,
great, man.
Before you skip to that was a super good finish that still in Piper losing too set him up to be put over because
Piper never lost, by the way.
he never
got
let
pinned.
out of his move either, and just a great storytelling on that after a great match too.
So we're going to lead up to SummerSlam 92, and this was in Wembley Stadium in the United Kingdom where Bret Hart took on another babyface. And you got to remember too, at this era, they hardly ever had babyface or heel versus heel matches. It wasn't a common thing to do.
The last one, probably big one before that, was Hogan
and
Warrior.
And I mean, even then that was a huge. And then what was before that? I can't think of anything. Like
They had to turn Macho Man to do them.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it wasn't a big thing. It was pretty uncommon to do babyface matches. But they did one at 8 with Hart and Piper. They did one at SummerSlam 92 with Bret Hart and the British Bulldog, Wembley Stadium, main event for the Intercontinental title, which Alternate Warrior and Randy Savage were on earlier for the world title, which is almost unheard of back then. Yeah, the Intercontinental title never, ever got main event status over the world title, and this one did because of Davey being so over in Britain, which had, I believe, over 70,000 people, something like that. It was a huge crowd. And this match is a 5-star match in any single book you want to write it in, it's a 5-star match.
Well, and with that match being before the Intercontinental match, I think this is where Bret's starting to take over the company as the company's going more like obviously steroids at the time. They got to get away from that, and they're looking at work rate, and it shows you how over Bret and Bulldog were because of their work rate. They didn't have to be this larger than life characters.
Well, Bulldog was in the UK.
Well, that too.
I mean, they wouldn't have sold out any stadium over there without him there. But it's not to take anything away from the performance. It was a great match. Now, if you read Bret's book, Bret will tell you that he completely carried the entire thing.
Didn't he say Davey was high on crack?
Yes, high on crack with Jim Neidhart. I said, Bret, I'm fucked. He said, Bret, I'm fucked, and he didn't remember anything.
Wow.
Mark, we got a recurring theme here. You ever see that one?
I did not.
Oh!
Just for the visuals of that crowd and like just the moment of just their work rate of how good they are together. Because even with him not remembering the match, they put a hell of a match on together. Brother-in-laws. It's got everything you need in a wrestling story.
Incredible. Well, Davey Boy gets the win there. He wins the Intercontinental title.
Is that the one where his sister's sitting in the crowd?
Yeah,
and
Diana.
she's like, oh, who's she going to cheer for?
Who's Diana going to cheer for?
It's so cheesy, but it's perfect for the time.
Perfect. And Davey Boy gets the win in the UK. Ozzy Osbourne, I think, was out there raising his hand. It was incredible, man. It was a great match. But then Bret was on the bigger, better things because then in the fall of 92, on a house show in Canada was when he beat Ric Flair for his first heavyweight title. That one really came out of nowhere because it was just always the formula where they would build up the contender. And it's still the formula. You build up the contender. You build them. Here's your match. And you hope to make it I don't know who's going to win. In this case, it was a match straight up on a house show that nobody saw. I think they probably had it in primetime wrestling, but...
I don't think there was much build between Hart and Flair.
There's no
either,
build between Hart and Flair. It did. It came out of nowhere.
He maybe won, King of the Rings at that time? Not even yet?
The King of the Rings coming in 93. So Bret had lost the Intercontinental title, so he got out of that mid-card. Flair still feuding with Macho and Savage. And all of a sudden, Bret just beats him in the fall of 92. I remember reading about it in the WWF magazine. Actually, I remember being on Superstars where Bret Hart is a new WWF champion. You're just like, what the shit? I'll just give you my perspective from the time. I didn't see that one coming. And that's, as we get into our opinions on Bret and his legacy and everything like that, this is not a knock on it. But at that point, we were accustomed to, it's Hulk Hogan. It's the Macho Man. There's a little bit of the Warrior in there. And Ric Flair's in here as the big bad guy. Okay, yeah, that we get. Bret Hart came out of nowhere, and that is the first WWF champion that I ever remember going how is he the champion? Again, that's not sitting there saying as a knock.
He just never been presented.
I'm talking as a kid. He was never presented as a top guy, and it was only a year removed from him just being always a tag team guy. So his ascension was quick, if you think about it that way. Do you remember that? Do you remember when he got his first title, or you were still?
Oh,
a baby?
no, super young, and that's not going to be on most stuff I can watch.
No. So I guess that's just me reflecting. It was a strange thing. When Bret got that first title run. Now, what was going on behind the scenes was Vince was in the middle of a steroid trial, and if you need to go back, I
believe they were pushing towards or trying to do Flair Hogan.
Flair Hogan was supposed to be the match at 8 in 92. But I do know that it was a conscious effort to kind of get rid of the bodybuilder types. The Warlord was not going to be around after 92. You didn't, by all means, that worked before. These guys that looked like comic book stars drew a lot of money. I mean, they looked different than everybody did in everyday life. It was gladiators fighting on TV. So where you get a Bret Hart. Bret Hart's not a small guy, by the way. He's 6'1", 6'2", and 230, 240 pounds. I mean, he's a big guy, but compared to Hulk Hogan, no, he's not a big guy.
And I don't think he put on the size yet till a couple years later. He started to get a little bigger.
I think so. But it was a very conscious effort at that point to present legitimate-looking athletes towards the top of the card. Tito Santana, I heard, was actually considered for it, to get a Mexican audience. Because same thing, a natural athlete, he was considered for the spot. And before all this, Tito Santana and Bret Hart weren't that far apart on the card.
Yeah.
For us thinking back, it sounds crazy. You're like, oh, Tito could have been the Bret Hart? That sounds crazy. They weren't that far apart when Bret got his Intercontinental title run and started sending up the card. Well, we'll keep moving since, again, this is a little bit before you guys' time. Bret had his first match with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam or Survivor Series 92. He had a good match with Razor Ramon at Royal Rumble 93. He carried the heavyweight title the entire time until he lost it at WrestleMania 9 to the Royal Rumble winner of 93, which was...
Yokozuna? It's the Caesar's Palace.
Yes, yeah.
the worst Hulk Hogan run-in ever.
Wow.
So he loses the match to Yoko in a 10-minute match. It's not very good. Yoko then immediately loses back to Hogan. Now, I ask you, I know, John, you have. Mark, did you ever happen to read Bret Hart's book?
No, sir.
It's a really good read. It's a long read, but it's a very good read.
This whole episode's a learning experience.
Hey, man, we'll take it. We'll get to where
He's
we
a
remember
fascinating guy.
Yeah.
the Attitude Era. We'll get there soon enough. Bret was under the impression, when you got Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, and Vince McMahon, you got three bullshitters here, so who knows what the real story is. But Bret was under the impression that he would do this angle where he lost the belt to Yoko, Hogan would beat him, and then he would get the match with Hogan at SummerSlam, where he got to beat him in the middle of the ring with a sharpshooter, win his title back. I mean, and I'm not being a dick about it. That's exactly what Bret said. Hogan apparently had no idea that was happening. Vince kind of kayfabed them both, saying, "Well, I didn't promise you that, pal," and blah 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 blah. So Bret gets beat at WrestleMania 9 by Yoko. Hulk beats Yoko in 30 seconds after. Then Hulk loses the title right back to Yoko at King of the Ring in 93. They added a new pay-per-view at that point in June of 93. Bret goes on to King of the Ring 93, which, Mark, again, you want to see Bret Hart in his finest hour, it's King of the Ring 93.
Yeah.
He has 3 matches. He wrestles all 3 matches in the tournament. He beats Razor Ramon. And then he wrestles Mr. Perfect, rematch from 91. It's an incredible match.
Yeah.
And then Bam Bam Bigelow in the finals. So if you want to see Bret Hart in his finest hour, it's 1993. He's on point.
Okay.
So he wins the 1993 King of the Ring, but still, at this point, he's kept away from the heavyweight title picture. Yoko goes into a program with Lex Luger. Didn't gain a lot of traction. In 1993, WWF is kind of at its lowest. Bret's constantly feuding with Jerry Lawler.
Which felt, even looking back, I wasn't even watching it in real time then. It feels like it was forever when you like look back at all the programs they did.
Feud with
It
Jerry
was like
Lawler
a full
for
year.
forever. It was
I think it was
2
pretty much
years because they had the Kiss My Foot match in 95 and Lawler attacked him on the throne in 93.
Yeah.
So it was 2 full years of kind of sort of feuding with Lawler,
Wow.
which is kind of bizarre. So Bret's taken out of the picture then. So, I mean, Yoko holds the title consistently for a year here, and Bret's out of the title picture. Now, early 94, he teams in the Royal Rumble 94. He teams with Owen to take on the Quebecers, and Owen turns on him there. That's where Bret has a hurt knee. He should be making the tag, and he doesn't. And by the time he finally gets to Owen, Owen has enough of this shit and walks away. And then he kicks Bret's knee out after the match after Bret loses.
Yeah.
So Owen turns on Bret. You get to WrestleMania 10-year anniversary WrestleMania, and they have a very weird thing where Bret and Luger co-won the Royal Rumble. So what they did is have both Bret and Yoko wrestle earlier in the night, and the winner of the winner of the Yoko Luger match would wrestle Bret Hart later. So Bret wrestles Owen in the opening match WrestleMania 10. Again, 5-star match.
It's amazing.
No
And
2 ways around it.
if you know anything about that, that wasn't supposed to happen.
You
It
explain?
was supposed to be Bruce. Bruce Hart is what WWE wanted.
You go ahead and explain this one. I've been talking a lot.
They wanted Bruce Hart, which if you don't know him, he's like the older brother of the Harts, one of them.
Bruce wanted Bruce Hart.
And he pretty much ran Stampede Wrestling. He did a bunch of stuff. I heard that WWE wanted him too, and Bret adamantly fought against it because he knew the talent Owen had.
It was Bruce's idea.
Yeah.
But this whole storyline of the jealous brother was all Bruce Hart's idea.
And
That
then
is proven.
apparently Bret pushed for it so hard that him and Bruce didn't talk for years, but Bret knew to get what he needed out of a match. And his little brother deserved it because Owen was just floating around. He had been released once. He had been back again.
Owen was the best out of all of them.
And so that's how Owen and Bret got started. Was all because Bret he loved the storyline and he wanted Owen to get featured and be the little asshole brother who's jealous, and then
Owen took
who
that
actually
role great.
actually beat his brother and was amazing at being a little shithead brother.
Beat his brother at WrestleMania 10, and then Bret won the title.
And you want to talk about even better storyline? Yeah, you've
Later
got
that
Owen
night.
beating him and saying I'm better than you, but then Bret still walking out with the heavyweight title.
And so what an easy storyline to tell then.
It's amazing.
Of the big brother
Wow.
over taking the spotlight, but the little brother was like, I just fucking beat you.
Amazing.
So they had a match at SummerSlam 94, which was a great match, steel cage. Bret then transitioned to a feud with Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund actually beat him for the title at Survivor Series 94. Diesel won the belt from Backlund the next night. Backlund was the definition of a transitional champion. It was basically they wanted to run with Diesel. They didn't want Diesel beating Bret. So Bret lost to Backlund in kind of a screwy fashion. Diesel beat Backlund in literally 8 seconds the next night.
Gotcha.
Suddenly to the Diesel era. You got to WrestleMania 11. That was where Diesel headlined against Shawn Michaels. Bret had another rematch against Bob Backlund. Again, this is where Bret started taking a little bit of a backseat.
I think this is where a big part of the story of Bret and Shawn starts to happen too. I think this is the Click era,
This is the Click era.
and this is when Bret starts
Because-
getting real bitter towards those guys, especially Shawn. So that's a big part of this.
Yeah, that is
Makes
true.
sense.
I believe Diesel and Bret actually was the main event of Royal Rumble 95 in a good match.
Probably Diesel's best match in WWE. I
In
think.
95, it was a really, really good match. Bret started taking a back seat here because this is Click era. This is Shawn Michaels with his ascension. And here's the thing, and we can get into a whole other discussion about the Click era. They got behind Nash hell or high water. It was going to be Diesel's era, okay, and you can talk about what Nash did or didn't contribute to the business, and it's fine. Shawn Michaels is about to get featured prominently. Shawn Michaels earned it. You know, I mean, you can say it's power or what have you.
Well, and he personally literally saw Diesel on TV.
Yeah,
he got released from WCW,
Vegas,
said bring him in.
Yeah.
So Diesel being his bodyguard, there's a natural story there anyway.
Sure. And I don't think that was the worst thing that they did either. Now, Bret was definitely taking a back seat at this point because he feuded with Backlund, rekindled his feud with Lawler at 95. It was the Kiss My Foot match at the King of the Ring. Had a feud with our boy Isaac Yankum DDS, which became Mark
Kane.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I know that one I know.
95, he was feuding with Isaac Yankum DDS. He was feuding with Jean-Pierre Lafitte in 95. 95 wasn't a great year for wrestling, period, in both companies. Just it was a rough year altogether. But
Doink and Tatanka were prominent wrestlers.
They absolutely were. Bret definitely took a back seat until Survivor Series 95, where he beat Diesel, regained the title, which after the match, Diesel powerbombed him a couple times after the match. And I remember, at least according to Bret, saying Diesel said something in the ring saying, like, remember who repaid you the fucking favor. Something like that. Diesel was Nash was kind of pissed that he had to lose to Bret at this point, more or less. Again, which goes into the backstage heat with the Clique and everybody else is something that we'll never know. We're a couple guys are just hearing stories. And again, there's always their side, and the truth. It's probably in the middle somewhere. So who knows exactly what's happening there. But Bret did regain the title from Diesel. Business was terrible in 95. And Bret helped pick it back up. He maintained it until WrestleMania 12, and this is where we're getting to the meat and potatoes of our episode, I think. Mm-hmm. WrestleMania 12, Iron Man match.
The boyhood dream.
Boyhood dream comes true. 1 hour plus, because we go to an overtime period where Shawn Michaels super kicks Bret, wins the heavyweight title. And I've been blabbing quite a while for his timeline. I'm going to pass this to you because this is where I know we're all going to pick up.
Do you know much about that match?
I do.
There's I think it's the Bret versus Shawn rivalry DVD where they have their first sit down together. They talk about their whole career parallels because they're super parallel. And then it leads up to the screw job or whatever. And there's a part in it, I think it's that DVD, where Bret talks about they timed out that match so well that at 5 minutes they were supposed to be in the corner or something like that and do a specific spot. And Bret looks up at the time and they were on 450 like 3 or something. They were 7 seconds off. That's how well these two mapped out this match. In hindsight, it's not a great match. It's a lot of rest hold and stuff. I don't think it's great either. They had much better between the two of them. They definitely had. They had so much better separate, which is strange. Shawn and Bret are incredible talents, and they've easily had 5 better matches with other people. I think if you crunch that down even to a half hour, they would have had an amazing match.
Yeah.
But an hour, it's a lot of rest holds.
A lot of wrestling.
Yeah, so. But yeah, they timed that match out so well, which even though they hate each other, obviously clearly at that time they're working together. They had to plan all that out.
I don't think they hated each other yet.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think actually it's that night, I believe, leads to it.
It's getting pretty close to it.
So they have that match, and Shawn tells him to get the fuck out of my ring or something like that, and Shawn swears he didn't say it. Bret says, nah, you said it. And Shawn wants to celebrate in the ring and have the spotlight on himself.
Do you remember that match, Mark? Are you in wrestling at this point?
I've seen clips and stuff on.
Were you
on
watching
YouTube.
the product all together at that point? Like, were you?
I don't know, what year was it?
1996. So we're looking at.
I probably wasn't super into it yet, but I probably caught it from here.
Shawn had been climbing the card. They had been pushing Shawn as a babyface for the prior year. It was going to be his time. You could feel it coming. Bret was a little. It wasn't even that he was stale for lack of his effort, but he had really. Now we're talking from 92 into 96, 3.5 years. It's being positioned as a top guy. It's a pretty good run.
Well, business was down in total then, and like you said, they'd kind of sunk Bret. In
95 they sunk Bret.
How much are you going to do with him feuding Bob Backlund and Jerry Lawler?
They wanted to get behind Diesel to try something new. They want to get good looking, bigger, baby, naturally bigger. It wasn't a Hulk Hogan style. He was just naturally 7 feet tall and a good looking guy. It made sense to get behind him. It didn't necessarily work. Shawn wins the match in 96. Bret goes away. Now, there's a lot of debate on what Bret was doing while he was away. There was a lot of rumors that he was talking to WCW at that time. that there was a good chance he could have went to WCW in '96.
I believe it.
Which is an interesting time because you remember who else left in '96 to go to WCW? It's Hall and Nash.
Yeah.
They left in the the spring of '96 to go over to WCW and form the MWO. Bret was away. If you watch the product at that point, Bret was away from. He was not at SummerSlam '96. He left the company. He was still with them, but he left the company. He wasn't on TV. There was no any house shows or anything from WrestleMania all the way up to Survivor Series '96, where they were building up then the new hottest heel in the company, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Which plays a big factor in what happens to Bret Hart.
Huge factor.
For sure.
Stone Cold is selling the match on TV without Bret Hart being there. Stone Cold is on TV calling out Bret Hart saying he's the best there is, best there was, bull crap. I'm the best. I'm going to show you. I'm going to beat Bret Hart's ass. Stone Cold is the hottest. He hasn't been established yet as the best, but he's the hottest going. So they build up Stone Cold versus the returning Bret Hart at Survivor Series '96. Tell me you've seen it.
Yeah. That one I've seen for sure.
All right, okay. Survivor Series. Everybody remembers the WrestleMania match, which we're going to get to. Is incredible. But man, that Survivor Series '96 match is out of this world good.
I think that's the first match. I mean, obviously it's King of the Ring. Once he cut the promo, you knew what Stone Cold was.
Stone Cold was on his way.
But Survivor Series, you get to see it in a match form with a top guy. I think that is his first real high-profile. It is his first real high-profile match.
Austin, absolutely.
That starts.
Isn't that the one that essentially gave him a babyface turn?
No, that was WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 96, Survivor Series 96 was still Austin, completely heel. Bret coming back completely babyface. Now, it's not to say Austin isn't getting some reaction because, again, I remember watching. We actually ordered King of the Ring 96. It was me and my brother and my buddy Mike Crow. We're watching King of the Ring 96, where Austin cuts the promo. The Austin 316 just whipped your ass. And nobody talked like that on TV.
Yeah.
Nobody did that. So Stone Cold at that moment was the coolest. We were kind of glad he beat Johnny B. Bad. We were kind of glad he beat Jake the Snake. And nobody was like him to the point where he did that promo and we were just like, oh my God, I got to see more of him. I have to see more. Like, he was the coolest.
Well, and this was WWE finally going there because WCW was already heading there. The Outsiders had
already come over. Right. And so if you think about that, which this is really cool, in June of 96 was when Nash powerbombs Bischoff off the stage. So the NWO is right there, right? They got Hall and Nash. July, Hogan joins. June of 96 is when Austin does the Austin 316, says, I just whipped your ass. If that is where the wrestling that we know and love, I think, started. I think that's right there, man. I think about May, June 96.
I believe it.
All because as we know it, it's because of one promo. At the right time, the perfect time.
I think of multiple promos.
That's the one that got WWE.
The Hall and the Nash thing
date.
was booked so well. It was booked so dark.
On WCW side, but if Austin doesn't cut that promo at that specific time,
and I don't know if they wouldn't have done that if it wasn't a reaction to maybe Hall and Nash. I mean, it's a really, really cool thing to think about. And then on top of all that, think about the curtain call. Think about what the curtain call actually affected.
Triple H. Supposed to win the King of the Ring.
Triple H was supposed to win the King of the Ring. Hall and Nash were in there. They were out of there. It didn't fucking matter to them. So think about what... I mean, this is all just kind of fun hypotheticals. Think about if Hall and Nash stayed. Bret Hart going, I don't want to sit around here with Hall and Nash and Shawn Michaels. Fuck this.
And he jumps.
I'm going to WCW. And what could have been different with Bret Hart in WCW 96 as opposed to NWO? Hard to imagine, and this is, again, not a knock on Bret, hard to imagine it would be better because of how great we're talking about things were.
It would have been pink and black. NWO pink and black.
NWO pink and black?
Yeah.
Bret Hart.
He would have demanded.
But it could have been completely different. Bret Hart, who was on top of the... I mean, he was on top in 96. He was more on top than Hall and Nash were. You know what I mean? Like, it's one guy opposed to two, but imagine what could have been different. It was Bret Hart going over at that time. Hall and Nash stays in WWF. Like, it's just really weird to think about.
Austin never gets the push.
Austin never gets the push because Triple H never does the curtain call, and Triple H, who, has definitely earned his right to be one of the top guys ever, too, but at the expense of Austin. And Austin reinvented wrestling. I mean, that curtain call is crazy. It really is on how many dominoes fell into place stemming out of that.
Shit, imagine if it never happened.
The curtain call?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, man. Like, if Triple H doesn't get punished, he wins the King of the Ring. So what happens to Austin? Does he get over the same way? Hard to
He
say.
never has a chance to cut that promo.
Hard to say. And honestly,
Austin 316 doesn't exist because
Austin had been around for 7 years at that point in WCW, doing well, but never at that level. So it's hard to say. Do they look at him and go, "Oh, this is the guy"? I mean, maybe, but you're right. He doesn't have that opportunity.
their top selling shirt of all time still is Austin 316.
Really?
And he only cut that promo because
He beat Jake the Snake.
Snake Roberts was reading John 316 Bible verses.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason.
Yeah.
And that never would have
So
had
they
another
caught
chance.
lightning in a bottle, and it wouldn't have happened if they didn't do the curtain call. It's fascinating. It really is. That domino effect of what could or couldn't have happened, I think is crazy. And a lot of it involves, Bret. It really does. Because Bret, now we're back to Survivor Series 96, where Bret beats this hot fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin character. Bret gets right back into the forefront. They have a crazy finish at the Royal Rumble 97 where Bret throws out Stone Cold, but nobody sees it. And Bret comes back in, or Austin comes back in and dumps Bret, Taker, and Vader to where Austin technically wins the Royal Rumble, but they don't give him the title shot. That's always guaranteed otherwise.
And this is also where Stone Cold's by far the most over.
Yeah.
And Bret is
And he's
starting
still
to
tweening
become
heel,
the
but
old
yeah,
guard
yeah.
who's becoming heel. But he's
Correct.
not heel.
Where
But to the fans.
Bret should win, and Bret should be the guy we're cheering for, but a lot of people aren't. I'm not gonna say most of us, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people aren't there yet.
Because he wasn't cool. Stone Cold was cool.
Stone Cold was incredibly cool. We get to the Final Four, which this is a hidden gem. If anybody hasn't seen this, February 97, the In Your House pay-per-view is called Final Four. It was Austin versus Bret versus Vader versus Taker. This is an incredible match. It's a fatal four-way match where it's either elimination by pin, submission, or throwing him over the top rope. It's a weird concept. Nothing's ever really done before. Vader bled buckets at the seashore. Vader bled buckets, and it was just a hell of a match. But the winner was going to be the heavyweight champion because that was the Sean Lost My Smile speech, the same exact time. So Bret wins the belt. Bret then loses the belt to Sid.
Well, to touch on the Sean thing,
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
is another part of why Bret becomes who Bret is he claims this is the first time or second time that Sean drops a title so he doesn't have to drop it to Bret, because that was the whole plan, according to Bret.
13 was definitely supposed to be the time that Bret dropped the title to Sean at 12. The whole plan was Bret got to win it back at 13. Do you hear from other people besides Bret that it wasn't necessarily the plan? Yeah, but according to Bret, he'll go down, swinging with this one was Sean was going to repay the favor at 13. Sean didn't want to do it. So Sean he exaggerated his injury for the I Lost My Smile speech to forfeit the title going into the WrestleMania 13. Now, the other thing...
So then Bret never beat him. Bret never beat the champion, so Sean's always got that fall on.
Bret never got it back on Sean. And now the other thing, if you get to WrestleMania 13, Sean comes out for the Sid Undertaker main event and does a backflip off the top rope into the middle of the ring.
Well, it's just he comes back to wrestling pretty shortly after.
2 months later.
Yeah.
But it was just the biggest fuck you I guess you could, really. Was like, my knee's so bad, I just can't wrestle, and I can't defend the belt at WrestleMania. Nah. He goes out to do commentary and literally does a moonsault off the top rope and lands. Like, I mean, if it wasn't the biggest fuck you moment, it's up there.
I know, you're right.
But Bret then loses to Sid. Sid goes on to defend the title against the Taker at 13. Now, this is the match that you remember with the double turn. And this is where we're going to really dive deep into this because, 97 Bret Hart is the best Bret Hart that Bret Hart has ever fucking been.
I think he's one of the best promos of all time.
In 97.
In 97.
97, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. For the love of God, if anybody is listening, if you're watching, listening, pause us. Pause us right now. Fire up the network. Go watch WrestleMania 13. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's still to this day in my top 5 matches I've ever seen without even thinking twice about it. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible match that resulted in a double turn, which very rarely gets done successfully. Ken Shamrock, as the referee, even had a pretty big role in that, where Bret Hart wins the match, keeps inflicting punishment on Steve Austin. Shamrock has to break him up. Now, all of a sudden, Bret looks like the asshole. Austin is just the most fightingest, toughest son of a bitch we've ever seen. And now all of a sudden, like, what we already kind of felt anyways, because there was nothing that Bret did wrong before that. And Austin really did everything wrong because he was the heel. But it was the anti-hero. Austin was cool as fuck, and Bret was a little bit white bread. And, like, all of a sudden, now they're giving us a reason to go, no, you're the dick, Bret. Stone Cold's, he's the good guy. Mark, you remember seeing that match, man. How do you feel about that one, like, coming out of that?
I mean, Stone Cold is basically the reason I got back into wrestling after, like, the kid years of watching it on, like, Saturday mornings and shit. But I haven't seen that match in a while. Quite some time. It's always brought up
playback,
in, like, top 10 videos and shit, though. But I always think of the iconic moment. This is the one where Stone Cold is bleeding from the head, and he's got that screaming face while he's in the sharpshooter, like, to the point where I think they even copied it in the, to reference back to the last episode, the Cody Rhodes and Dustin match. They did something very similar to it. I mean, there's a reason it's in your guys' top 5 matches, and I would agree.
And Bret, to give Bret Hart more credit because he's the best, they were not supposed to bleed. They were not supposed to bleed at all.
No, Bret.
He talked Steve into it and said he'd take the fall.
He took the fall, which he did.
Yep.
That's correct. There was no blood in the WWF at that point. Bret thought the match needed blood. So the finish was supposed to be Stone Cold passing out to the sharpshooter. No blood. Boy, that visual would have not been the same without the blood.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because when he's doing the yell face, it's literally like he squeezes his eyes and it just squeezes out
down his nose,
and just
between his teeth,
dripping on the mat.
Mm.
Amazing.
It's an amazing match again.
And even the lead up to this, I believe, is when Bret starts to acknowledge that the crowds are wanting Stone Cold.
Yeah, and he doesn't get it. Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, he doesn't get it.
Which makes the crowd more turn Bret.
Oh
heel.
man,
like,
you don't get it.
The stuff's there to set up for the double turn.
Well, you remember that better than I do. Now listen, the double turn happened that month, and now people forget that they had a match in April in your house pay-per-view, which is actually really good, where Stone Cold won by DQ. This is where the turn was in full effect because Bret then comes out on Monday Night Raw in a match between Owen and Davey. And if you haven't seen this is incredible. Owen and Davey had a match, and they're just at each other's throats. And Bret comes out to try to bring the peace. And now Owen and Davey are standing as heels and a babyface, like, fuck you, we're ready to fight you. And Bret's saying, stop it. Look what they've done to us. Look what these people have done to us. Turn family against each other. This is crazy. And in all reality, it's a babyface promo, but he's only doing it with heels.
Yeah.
And the people start booing the shit out of him. And Owen has big tears, and he gives Bret a big hug, and Bret hugs him and just kind of doing his Bret look around like, you guys are fucking savages. And everything about it is babyface.
And Bret did.
But they get booed out of the building.
That was Bret not turning on another wrestler.
No.
It was strictly on the crowd.
On the crowd. Look what you're doing.
And then he started. Well, now it's later.
Because he never had to turn on Austin because he was always against Austin.
Yeah.
He was just now against what Austin represented and against what the fans represented. And this is just brilliant
The crowd's
shit.
changed. What happened was the crowd's changed what a heel and a face are.
Yeah.
So for being a heel or a face, you are now a heel because you're not cool.
By doing the right thing, but not being cool, by loving your family, and that wasn't cool.
If you want to be an asshole, and
that wasn't drinking beer and stunnering people, so it wasn't fun.
Yeah, and people loved it.
And that's what got the Hart Foundation back together. Soon Jim the Anvil joined. They had Brian Pillman join because he trained in the dungeon, and then that Hart Foundation stable,
which is one of the coolest stables.
That was a great stable.
Look amazing, all in the leather like Hitman jackets. Those guys were awesome.
It was a
Brian
great
Pillman
stable and a great time.
It was amazing.
It was a great time for wrestling. Bret was recovering from a knee surgery then. There's another
always out on crutches or
he was out on crutches in the wheelchair.
They would wheel him out.
This was another controversial thing was Mark, tell me if you remember this, but this is something that's been brought up lately. That Bret, see, this is who you believe. Bret will tell you that he missed the cue. But there was a time where they were on TV where Bret was going to run down Shawn while sitting in a wheelchair, just talking shit to Shawn back. Now, Shawn's a babyface. He's a good guy. Bret's the heel. It's established.
Okay.
Bret's running him down, telling him this, that, what have you, suck. And the show's supposed to end with Shawn super kicking Bret in the wheelchair, tumbling over, okay?
All right.
They're telling Bret to give him the go-home spot. Stop talking. Give him the go-home spot. Bret says he never heard it. And Bret kept talking 30 seconds way past he was supposed to. All of a sudden, he finally gets to the cue. Shawn super kicks him. Well, they went off the air. They're on TV. They got to stop filming at some point. So the show goes off the air with Bret just talking shit to Shawn Michaels.
Oh, wow.
Shawn comes back and he's, listen, if you're going to go down the Shawn and Bret feud, I'm going to side with Bret more times than not. This one I got Shawn. Because Shawn's coming back going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Nobody saw it. Where you guys, you're just talking shit to me. And I'm just standing there. That's what everybody's seen. He super kicks him, but it's after the cameras, and they show it like the next week. Like, oh yeah, after the show. But then Bret's just going, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that seems like a little bit of petty bullshit.
For sure. I mean, a bit. I mean, maybe he didn't know. Who knows? But it definitely makes Shawn
Could it
look
have
like
happened?
a bitch.
Sure, is there technical issues? They happen.
Yeah.
They do have the history at this point now.
But amongst two guys that do not like
he told
each
him to
other.
get the fuck out of the ring.
Yeah.
He is
Shawn says
convinced he didn't drop the title to him.
Shawn says he's not returning the favor to you. There was the backstage fight, which I think happens a little bit later, where Bret rips out hunks of Shawn's hair.
And takes it to Vince and throws it down.
Yes. And Shawn, yeah.
I mean, it's no mystery that they don't like each other.
So in this case, for Bret to sit here and he probably kayfabe in 2019 going, I didn't hear him. Well, it's probably bullshit.
If you want to get to promos between these two, I believe it's then probably the next week or a week
Sunny
after.
Days.
The Sunny Days promo, which if you watch some, I believe in Wrestling with Shadows, it shows you how great of friends Sunny and Bret Hart are. And
which the craziest thing was that Shawn was
dating
Sunny.
her. Yes.
Yeah.
Behind his wife's back.
Yeah, behind his wife's back and Candido's back.
He you know about the Sunny Days promo?
Oh yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Yeah. So Bret's wife legitimately starts thinking that he's having an affair.
Right.
Which
by the way,
Bret ended their marriage shortly.
Which, by the way, Bret did. Bret did fuck around. Not with Sonny necessarily. He's going to go down swinging that he didn't. But if you read Bret's book, he never shied away that he had lots of affairs. He had different girls on the road every time he was out. He said he was never a drugs guy, never an alcohol guy, but he was a girls guy. And he absolutely cheated on his wife.
He's the best there is. He's the excellence of. He's a sharpshooter.
He probably.
You're gonna roll with that one, huh? He's a sharpshooter.
Oh, nicely done, sir.
There was a Sunny Days promo, which was interesting. Shawn cut the promo because I guess allegedly Bret and Tammy were very close backstage.
Which as a fan, no one would know what that even means.
Here's the other thing that I was going to get into as we get into where the screw job happens. The internet is in its infancy at this point. This is 97.
And Sonny was mind you, Sonny in 96 or 97 was the most downloaded person on the entire internet.
So if you were to get into the internet and you're a WF fan, you're probably looking at Sonny. You might have got yourself into some of those dirt sheets at the time. So this is the first time where they could say something like that and even if you didn't know, you would go to the internet and go, what are they talking about? And you would maybe learn more. And that's, allegedly what happened with Bret Hart's wife, like, of all things. So this is an interesting time period where the internet is really taking shape, that more people than not are having it in their homes even. You know what I mean? And with that was, I don't even remember how I stumbled across it, but I know, like, the first thing I did with the internet was look up fucking wrestling rumors. Like, you could find out what's going to happen because this is the Monday Night Wars. People are jumping ship.
I swear in, like, a little later than that, but, like, 97, 98, 99, like, the only website I went to was WWF.com. You know?
And, well, they're putting their spin on it, but then there's, like, Wrestling Observer, there's PW Torch. I use Raja, WWF. Yeah. Do you remember that, Mark? The internet in its infancy, man. Like,
for sure, definitely. I can't tell you what the fuck I was looking at on the.
There was porn, music, and wrestling, and we know.
Yeah, but
which order they are in is your discretion, and I'm not judging you either way.
But I couldn't even tell you how old I was. I was young, so who knows? Who knows?
And this also adds to once that happens. Brett's done with Sean, and he is full bore on just being an asshole on every promo he cuts, everything he says to the crowd.
The promos are incredible.
So
if we go back to 97, Bret Hart 97 anything, let's go to 97 Canadian Stampede, where they are absolutely on TV positioning this Canada versus USA feud. And again, there's just coincidentally so many shows being ran in Canada at the time where Bret and the Hart Foundation were positioned as babyfaces in Canada and anywhere internationally. They were positioned as the babyfaces.
It was America's
and it
most
was,
assholes.
it was a real life kind of take on. Yeah, America is a bunch of assholes, a bunch of pompous asses, and
DX is in full form by then, and they were just assholes.
yeah. Well, once Shawn and Hunter got to go on,
complete asshole
Stone Cold was a complete asshole at this point, and they were just saying, "Look at these guys. This is what you want to cheer for." In America, we're Jerry Springer, era at this point. We're Crash
Beavis
TV.
and Butthead.
Yeah.
We're going, fuck you, you're boring with your white bread bullshit. So they get to Canadian Stampede, which is held in Calgary, and if you unpause from the Bret Austin match, pause this again. You can watch this whole pay-per-view because it's incredible.
The entrances
But the
are
entrances
electric.
of the 10-man tag, it's the Hart Foundation of Bret and Owen, Davey Boy, Jim the Anvil, and Brian Pillman versus Stone Cold, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, and Legion of Doom. It's a 10-man tag. All the Hart family is sitting at ringside, and if you just want the most electric crowd that you've ever seen in your entire life, watch the Calgary Stampede pay-per-view.
There's a thing,
Canadian Stampede, I believe it's called. But
something like that. I guess Brian Pillman said he hated the idea of being baby faces in Canada. He just wanted
really?
to stay being a heel. He's
Yeah.
like, it's not going to work.
if you watch the match, Pillman was heel the entire time.
There's I guess after that match, he told Bret, convinced him, like, no, we have to do this. It's going to work. I guess he told Bret that was the greatest night of his wrestling career,
believe it.
which he died shortly
One of the
after.
last
but
nights of his
but
career, yeah.
I guess he, like, as soon as he walked out and the crowd went nuts, he just was like,
It's
okay,
insane.
we got this.
And Pillman's out there raking eyes and raking bags, and he's going toe-to-toe with Shamrock, not giving a shit. If you watch Pillman in there, it's actually a lot of fun, because Pillman's just out there having the time of his life. It's an incredible match in Calgary where, these guys who are being portrayed as heels all show long on TV, the mega baby faces for this night.
And they're still being heels. It's amazing.
They're still wrestling as heels,
Yeah.
and Austin, who is the hottest babyface in the company, is getting booed out of the building.
And it's the complete reverse of America, because Austin does heel things, DX does heel things, get cheered. Yeah. So when the Harts are finally giving these American heels their comeuppance, the Canadian crowd goes absolutely crazy.
An absolute must-watch.
It's ridiculous.
Mark, you remember seeing that one?
No, sir.
Oh, it's amazing.
No.
We got a lot of Mark needs to watch some Bret Hart stuff. And this one is incredible. This is towards the end of the Bret Hart's era, but it's incredible, man. It leads us to SummerSlam 97. We get to a match with Bret Hart versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker is the heavyweight champion. Shawn Michaels is named the special guest referee. At this point, Shawn is still a babyface. Bret's the heel. Taker's a babyface. Taker is outside looking in on all this bullshit. Just he's just the heavyweight champion. He's wrestling Vader and Farouk and some other dumb shit. So he's on the outside looking in. He's the heavyweight champion, but in reality, he's second tier to what Bret and Shawn and Stone Cold are doing. So now, Bret earns himself a title shot against Taker. It's 1997. Shawn is the special guest referee. If Shawn does anything to fuck over Bret, he's going to get fired. That's the storyline going in. During the match, Bret spits on Shawn. Shawn, fuck it, tired of this, goes to waffle Bret with a chair, moves out of the way. He drills Taker with a chair. Bret makes the cover. Shawn has to make the count. Bret gets the win. So Bret's the heavyweight champion, 5-time champ, heel. Shawn's discussing with himself. Strangely, it moves on to a feud with Shawn and Taker, which takes top precedent, where Bret now is feuding with the Patriot. Like they brought in the Patriot just basically for this USA Canada deal. So again, Bret's taking a back seat to Shawn, even though he's the champ at this era. And now these two hate each other in real life. Shawn and Bret absolutely despise each other. So he takes on the Patriot, the Ground Zero pay-per-view in September, and then it's a flag match, him and Davey Boy versus Patriot and Vader at the, I believe that's the Bad Blood Hell in the Cell. That was where Shawn and Taker wrestled the Hell in the Cell. Yeah.
Amazing match.
In 97. So Bret again, is a little bit taking a back seat, even though he's a heavyweight champion. The Canada feud's still going strong, but Shawn now has turned heel.
I think this is the very like defining DX coming together is when they come out and they carry Shawn out.
Yeah, and Shawn had turned heel then after that, feuding with Taker, which is interesting because they were both baby faces, and then all of a sudden they both turned heel in pretty quick succession. But they built up to Survivor Series 97. This is where everybody knows about the screw job at this point. I guess before we start talking about it, let's just throw it out there. We'll toss to Mark. Okay. Because the screw job in 97, we all know it happens. What are your interpretations of it? What do you think actually happened? And how do you feel about the ramifications of the Montreal screw job?
What do you mean? What do I think actually? Do you think it was all
in on it?
Sean has admitted he was in on it. Do you think it was all legit? Because there's some out there that said the whole thing was a work.
Scott Hall believes it is somehow. Yeah. I don't know why, but
think about what happened afterwards. If it was a work, it would have been a great work because the WWF never looked back after that.
I mean, it could be. I wouldn't put it past them. If it was the greatest work of all time.
There you go, because they're still working it today.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons Scott Hall thinks it's a work is because, and Bret was in on it, is because he was getting so much money from WCW.
Yeah.
And Vince is like, I can't pay you. Let's do this, and we all make money. So,
I mean, I wouldn't put him past him. I wouldn't doubt it. But Bret's pretty pissed about it. But Bret's pretty pissed about everything. So, I mean.
Which maybe, I mean, look, Bret's a great worker. Maybe he's working it to this day. Maybe he's such a protector of the business.
If that's the case, Shawn got the shit end of the stick on that one. He may have got the title and the glory, but in the end, everybody kind of thinks Shawn's an asshole.
At that point, Shawn didn't give a shit.
That's true.
At that point,
that's
Shawn
true.
would have. If all of that was true, where they go, Shawn, everyone's going to legitimately fucking hate
Shawn
you.
didn't get blamed for a long time, I guess. Like Vince vouched for him, like it was all his.
Yeah.
Like that was part of the deal. And then I think it's come out
later on. Shawn and Hunter both.
Hunter, yeah. I think Hunter is his idea.
Hunter kind of loosely pitched the idea. Pritchard on his podcast said that he didn't know, but he's pretty sure that Pat and Jerry both knew. Hebner obviously knew.
Hebner, do you watch the new Viceland?
I've seen a lot of those Vicelands.
Did you see the Screwjob one?
No, I did not watch it.
Oh, Hebner says Bret knew or something like that. Like Hebner's like, I don't know, taking back everything he's ever said.
Only because I've seen and heard so much on it already.
That's also
the
where,
last one I'm going to watch.
That's also where Scott Hall's like, nah, it's a work. And then I think Bret Hart after that, or maybe it was on there. He's like Scott Hall's an idiot if we think that we believe him that he's never talked to Shawn about this. Like, yeah. Right.
Okay. You guys are starting to convince me a little bit.
Here's the thing. It's just the fallout that came from it is so interesting because if we're going to get into Bret Hart and WCW here, Bret's gone. I think all that's legit. I think Bret's gone. I think Vincent wasn't able or didn't want to pay him.
I think they offered him, I forget how much, but like a 20-year contract is the only way he could get the money that WCW offered him, and he was agreeing with it because he wanted to stay.
I think the idea was Vince was going to send Bret off as hot as he could possibly be and making as much money as he possibly could, but also keeping the company hot, keeping the heel heat on Vince, and then also on Shawn. Well, the heel heat on Vince was the Bret Screw Bret promo was the next night or maybe it
was a week. I think it was a week later. Still with the black eye. With
the black eye from Bret punching him. I mean, it's such a great story. If it was written out that way, it makes sense.
At this time, Bret Hart's getting a documentary filmed about him wrestling with Shadows.
The entire time, the Wrestling with Shadows crew is there the entire time.
Right.
You coincidentally see this.
Right.
Unsanctioned by WWE. They
never let anybody behind the scenes before.
Bret claimed that he didn't want to be mic'd up, and they were like, well, no, like we need anything we can, and that's why he was mic'd up when he went back and knocked Vince out.
So is there a whole lot of coincidences involved?
I never put any of that together. I'm convinced at this point.
I'm just saying, I mean, could all those be coincidences all together? They sure could be, but it kind of makes a lot of sense if it wasn't.
I mean,
I do believe that Bret was on his way out. I don't think that was anything fake.
No, I think they worked it to their advantage, probably.
I think he had already signed. He had already signed. He had I think it was 3-year, $9 million, something insane for the time.
Wow.
And I think Vince was confident enough in the guys that he had that he didn't need Bret. So I think that really do believe they worked that together. I still to this day believe they worked together. And I think Bret's such a guy that protects the business and protects what his dad did in Stampede, that he's going to protect that on his deathbed. And so is Vince. Vince has been in the business his entire life as a little boy. So I think they're both going to take that one down with him.
I don't think it's a work.
I don't know, Sean. I don't know it's a work. I think Vince and Bret do.
If it's not a work, though, this is where, Pillman had passed away. Mm-hmm. And then this is where some of the worst luck for the most unlucky family of all time starts happening.
No, because Owen passes in 99.
And then their mom dies. One of their, another brother dies. And then their dad dies. And then it's just this unraveling.
Bret gets super kicked in the head and
Bret has a stroke. It's man.
Now listen,
it just starts unraveling.
Does the unraveling happen after this?
So if it's not a work, this
sure does, and that's
having,
not a work.
Yeah, they start having some bad luck.
God damn, they need to make a movie about Vince McMahon or a movie about like Bret Hart, I guess.
Well,
Vince McMahon would be way more interesting, and I think they are.
I think they are.
I've heard that for a while.
Yeah. I hope it's good. That Page movie wasn't bad.
I haven't seen it.
It was.
I heard it was good.
It had no right being as good as it was. I think. Yeah.
I'll have to give it a watch. I don't know. I mean, no, this is in 97 again. This is it's hard to imagine the secret would be that well kept also 20 years later. But maybe it's the last one they got.
I don't know, because we still get such conflicting stories from different people. Like Pritchard will tell one, Hebner tells one, Vince tells one. Sean still is adamant that he didn't know, and then he says he did, and then so it's these guys can't even stay consistent on their story, so we don't know.
Which could all be diversion from the truth, which it was planned. I mean, it's a really, really interesting thing. The fact that the cameras are there for that A&E special and everybody heard the microphone of Bret saying it's going to be a schmaz and Vince agreeing, and then it just wasn't. And then the Earl Hebner swearing on his family, he won't fuck you. The fact that Bret thought he was going to get fucked and then got fucked is just a weird thing. I don't think it's weird. No, because it never happened before. So why would you sit there think it's going to happen? I mean,
well, he blames. He basically just thought Sean was a chicken shit. Like
Sean was. Did you hear that Sean had been training shoot holes with Jerry Briscoe like 2 weeks prior?
No, because he was worried Bret would kick his ass.
Bret would kick his ass because Bret could have kicked his ass. There's just no two ways around it. So Bret was learning shoot holes with Jerry Briscoe. If Bret tries to do this is what you do, because apparently Jerry Briscoe is the baddest motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, he would kill you. Well, either way, whether it was planned or not, what happened is Bret's gone. Bret lost the title at Survivor Series 97, and the screw job to Sean.
What would you do if he's coming to your company in your WCW? What's the first thing you would have Bret Hart do?
Shoot on WWF.
That's a better idea than what they did.
What they did was they brought him as a special guest enforcer for the Sting Hogan match, which was the biggest match they've ever had.
And it was done completely wrong.
It was terrible.
They missed their own finish for their biggest match.
Bret wasn't just a top guy coming in. He was the top guy coming in with the biggest buzz that you could possibly have.
And he's your competitor's top champion who also never lost the belt.
Yeah. He's coming in, and they brought him in kind of like a wet fart, man. They just, they had him feud with Flair immediately. You bring him in on top. You either bring him in as your top heel against Sting or your top babyface against Hogan. Like, you don't fuck around. And they did. WCW, if you listen to Eric Bischoff's tale, he'll tell you that Bret was kind of checked out from the screw job. I could probably believe that. Bret will tell you, no, I was checked out because they didn't know what the fuck to do with me.
Yeah.
I kind of believe that.
And there's also the stories that Owen. So like Neidhart came like a couple weeks later. I think Davey went immediately with Bret, and Owen was thinking about coming, and Bret talks about like telling him no matter how bad he doesn't want to be in WWF, like do not come to WCW.
Yeah, like
he's just telling him it's absolutely terrible and it'll never work for him.
Wow.
And Owen spent another year and a half before he, of course, tragically passed away. So here we are, Bret, in WCW. Do you have anything to remember?
No, they show the clip of the Goldberg thing, which is pretty cool. The spear with the metal plate, and that's it. That's it.
I thought you meant Goldberg kicking his head into the front row.
Yeah,
no.
What I think of.
Yeah,
when I think of
there's
Bret
that
Hart
too.
In WCW.
Bret had a great match with Benoit.
the
Kemper
Owen tribute.
Arena. The Owen tribute was a great match, and he had a very good match with Benoit also when he won the title in '99 in a tournament style match.
But you can't even remember his title run.
No, you can't remember anybody's title run at that.
And they
time.
were still like
That's just WCW.
there was still some memorable WCW stuff going on. I mean, Goldberg was hot, DDP was hot.
'98 WCW is still great.
Yeah, and they just did not use Bret Hart.
It's the beginning of the end. But '98 WCW, there's something wrong. I remember Halloween Havoc '98. If you look at this card on paper, it is stacked to the rafters. It was Hogan Warrior 2, which is notoriously one of the worst matches that ever happened. But it was DDP and Goldberg in the main event for the title. You had Bret versus Sting. That should have been the match. Mm-hmm. It's not good. Go back and watch. It's not good.
I think I said this to you before. Sting and Crow Sting had what memorable match did he have? I think he was absolutely awful. As a character, he was amazing. They did some actual super long storytelling with him. The worst matches. He had nothing memorable.
And Bret versus Sting just should have been the match the entire time. Not only because of the Scorpion Deathlock and the Sharpshooter. I mean, that's cool enough, but they're similar size.
Super similar, yeah.
You know, and I mean, just top guys for a long time. That should have been huge. Bret Hart versus Sting should have been huge.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I mean, it just was. No, that's. I honestly think the answer is in between. I think WCW is petering out, and I think that Bret was completely unmotivated. Whether it was because he got the payday he always thought he deserved, whether or not he really was if Montreal thing was all legit and he was that disillusioned from wrestling, that could make sense because it showed he didn't offer a whole lot in WCW.
Well, you think about his first good match there is probably Chris Benoit. That was Owen didn't die for a year and a half, and then that match didn't happen right after. They waited till they were back in Kansas City.
Yeah, a few months later.
So it's a few months later. So
he's
almost 2 years before he has a memorable match.
And
it wasn't even a pay-per-view.
That's crazy. That's just crazy how hot he was. Not even the Bret Hart that we all talked about from the late 80s into 95, 96. We're talking about 97 Bret Hart, this character that was just incredible. He was the hottest he had ever been and just did nothing.
Could you imagine putting him with a guy like DDP who was ultra hot?
They did.
But actually making them like something against the NWO or something, and like they didn't do any of this stuff.
Could have been.
They had him join the NWO.
They had him be Hogan's butt buddy, which is like the worst thing they could have done. Do you remember anything, Mark, from Bret Hart and WCW?
Dude, I was a WWF guy.
I was a WWF guy too.
Yeah.
And Bret Hart going to WCW was that's as big of a jump as there was. To be honest, at that time when the Monday Night Wars were in their hottest, because WCW was still winning in 97. They didn't lose until 98 with an Austin McMahon thing. So WCW is still winning. They just got the top guy. That's the Warriors getting Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
I mean, they're winning and they got the top guy. How do you stop them?
Yeah.
And somehow they fucked it all up. And again, I mean, I would personally put it, I mean, just on the outside looking in, 50-50 on what WCW is doing, and then Bret Hart kind of half-assing it while he was there. That's my perspective.
If I was them, I would have been motivating it. I would have just been like, I would have just said, here, take a microphone his first night. What else do you do?
Bret said he was motivated. Bret said he wanted to go out there and stick it to him.
But they didn't do anything. They didn't even put him on TV until that Starrcade. I think they just talked about him.
That was the first thing they might have been allowed to. You know, there was a weird transition when you're initially retired.
I don't know if they were putting that stuff in back then, though. I think that's...
I'm not sure either. So Bret Hart goes to WCW, and unfortunately at Starrcade 1999, December 99, he got super kicked by Goldberg, got a severe concussion, was out for a while, and then he wrecked his bike and clonked his head and suffered a stroke where effectively retired him in ring.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always thought it was the Goldberg kick that did it.
I think that was part of it.
He wrestled later. He wrestled some dumb bullshit against like Terry Funk in a hardcore match like after like
really
where if you read his book, he doesn't
sell that.
He couldn't feel the nerves in his hands while he was wrestling. It was some dumb shit they made Bret do.
Okay.
So we sat here and we covered his career. We kind of went factually and we covered a ton of great matches. So many more great matches than a Hulk Hogan had in his era. Like it was a different era. I don't know, probably more great matches than Shawn had in that era. Shawn, of course, came back after 2002 and had a ton of great matches too, so comparing them is kind of tough. So Bret definitely, though, had a ton of great matches. There's a handful of 5 stars in there and a whole bunch of 4 stars. I mean, great matches. My position is where I feel he's overrated is that he never moved the needle enough. He never became a top star. And he never was really that great as a character until 97, where he was just whiny ass old man Bret.
Do you think if he didn't leave then and he stayed whiny ass old man, he becomes even better?
For at least a year or two, yeah.
You think you get like some of these other guys that start to come over?
Against, say, like Babyface Rock. Imagine Babyface Rock and, eyebrow raise and trailblaze and all that.
I think he could have been great against, I think next natural opponents, Triple H on the rise. You're done with
too.
Shawn. That's his lackey.
Triple H in 99 with Bret Hart. That era. It could have been great.
More programs with Stone Cold.
So maybe my sense that he's overrated in WWF folklore isn't necessarily all his fault. I think it could have been better, but I don't put him above John Cena. I just don't. I don't think he is as influential, and I don't think he's had. If we're being honest, I think John Cena's had more top-notch matches. It was a longer line. It was a longer run.
I don't think he had more top-notch match. I don't think Cena started having. I think Cena had
promos. I think Cena was a more memorable character. I don't think that Bret Hart tops John Cena any all-time list.
I don't think Cena.
And a lot of people he does, and that's where I feel Bret's overrated.
I don't think Cena started having top-notch matches until the CM Punks and Daniel Bryan started coming along. Anything he did with Orton, I think, sucks. The stuff with JBL, he's got that one memorable match where he's all bloody. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a lot in over half his run.
No, I still think he's more influential, more important than Bret Hart. Where do you land?
I would agree with that. He's more in. I don't know about influential to the business, but I think he's definitely bigger than Bret Hart.
If you're ranking them all time, not necessarily your favorite, but all time top WWF superstars. On whatever list you want to do it on, John Cena is ahead of Bret Hart.
But is this because the WWF as a machine, WWE, is so much bigger that they can present that than it was in 95, 96?
No, I think Cena earned it. I really do. I think he earned it over the longevity. I think he earned it with great matches. I think he earned it with better promos. I think he earned it by better character. I really do. I think Cena's earned it where he's better. No, here's the thing. I mean, Hulk Hogan is bigger on that scale than Bret Hart is, and he definitely didn't have the better matches.
I also think comparing all these guys, it's apples to oranges.
It
Hogan
is
to
in a
Austin,
sense.
Austin to Cena. The closest two, I think, would be Cena and The Rock.
Cena and The Rock, and then Shawn and Bret, and where you rank them. And then we talked about before we started filming, man, like when Shawn and Bret will always be parallel. Mm-hmm. They always
tag teams,
will be.
Intercontinental title, heavyweight title. It's all at the same time.
Similar size. Bret's a little bit bigger, a little bit more believable, but similar size, similar runs. They'll always be compared. And we talked about this. Who do you think is the better in-ring wrestler?
Oh, I think Bret Hart.
You think Bret Hart?
Yes. Like you said, his run to when Shawn got hurt was better than Shawn's.
Yeah, Shawn coming back gets a whole new spin on it because he had some great matches on his return.
I don't think Shawn and Diesel was as great of a match as Bret and Diesel.
Yeah,
I think
it's pretty close.
I think Bret pulled some good matches out of some not great situations. There's a reason he stayed on top feuding with Jerry Lawler and Bob Backlund.
Sure.
Does Shawn recover from being in a position like that? I mean, that's hard to tell.
Yeah. What do you think, Mark? In ring, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart.
Shawn's my boy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Shawn every time.
You can present an argument for either guy.
Well, and as much as you say the industry was super down back then, like I said sometime before we started recording, Bret Hart still found international crossover success.
The international success is absolutely legit.
Well, like I said, he was on The Simpsons. I mean, he did big things that no other wrestler was doing.
Yeah,
at the time. At a time, no one was doing it.
Like crazy overseas with Bret on top. Why exactly? I don't know. I mean, he means from Canada, but that's not like international to them. He was huge though in Germany, in the UK. He was huge everywhere he went overseas. Bret was incredibly over. Where I was getting at is that I would personally take Shawn in ring. I would think Shawn is the better promo altogether. Bret cut some great ones in '97, but altogether, I think Shawn's a better promo. I think Shawn has more charisma. I think Shawn checks the box a little bit higher than Bret in every single mold. But Bret did draw more money. Bret was more successful. Bret Absolutely. And again, if you can't explain it in words why, I mean, I personally can't, but I won't take it away that Bret did better business than Shawn did.
And they were two different mentalities. I think Shawn was starting to be that new era, and Bret was super kayfabe. I mean, he grew up in the business. He was just the old guy, like, I'm going to do business the right way, and I'm a technician, and I want to do everything this way.
I think the business did pass Bret by.
Yeah.
And I think that 97 run was so great because it really that was the crossover.
He saw the business passing by.
He saw him passing by. He was the cranky old man. And he was the perfect character for it. Like, it was incredible.
I think Bret was a victim of a transitional period, and I think Shawn was he benefited
beneficiary
from that transitional period. His character went farther in that transitional period. Bret Hart's character kind of
what's crazy is that
too old school.
after 97, Bret goes to WCW and Shawn gets hurt at Royal Rumble 98.
Casket match?
The casket match. He gets patched up over the ropes and hurts his back, and he's gone at WrestleMania 14, April 98. So now, it is crazy. In a 6-month span, you lost Bret and Shawn. You're the WWF. You lost Bret and Shawn. If Vince was okay letting Bret walk away because he had Shawn, he doesn't have him anymore. Mm-hmm. So now you get in 98 where he makes himself the top heel. And it fucking worked. I mean, him versus Austin, he let Foley have the run with matches with him. He still used Taker and Kane and, brought The Rock along. They were
kind of forced to bring The Rock up.
They brought The Rock along pretty quick at that point. And they never looked back. It all worked. Yeah. But it's crazy to think that what if they still have Bret and Shawn? Where would everybody else be? I mean,
we may never have Dwayne The Rock Johnson, the actor.
It would be tough to imagine him breaking through with those many guys there. It's interesting.
The Rock would be like managing the Usos right now or something.
Yeah, it's one of those. That guy was pretty damn good, charismatic guy in the WWF. Like, not the biggest movie star in the world, maybe be the president. Yeah. Like it's crazy to think that butterfly effect of all this Bret Hart stuff that went behind the scenes too. I mean, it really, really is.
To be honest, I wouldn't want it any other way.
No,
I'm glad it all happened the way it did. It's legendary.
Which maybe Bret Hart might be a victim in that. I mean, he got paid for all the bad bullshit he did in WCW. So he got paid and he was able to, provide for his share the rest of his life. So it's not a poor Bret story. It's a poor Bret story talking about Goldberg kicking him in the fucking head.
And as much as his career basically ended at the screw job, I mean, what a way to go. I mean, you're folklore at that point. And there's the reason we're talking about this now.
That's the reason we're talking about this now. And that's the reason why when I said, what do you remember about Bret Hart and WCW? And you went, it essentially did end at the screw job. It didn't, but it did. He had 2 more years of active wrestling, but nobody remembers it.
Well, I mean, even the most memorable thing about one of the most memorable things about just this year's WrestleMania is Bret Hart getting tackled.
Yeah.
As he's giving his speech. I mean, he's still legendary to this day. Everything he does is controversial.
And what was memorable at AEW was MJF saying, "Well, look out, Bret! There's a fan come."
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now we hear Bruce Pritchard talk about, "Oh, that was all work."
I actually love that AEW brought out Bret Hart. I mean, if you're gonna have a guy unveil a title, what a cool guy to do it.
Well, Jinder Mahal would have been better.
Yeah, okay.
He was a better heavyweight champ.
Yeah, okay.
I had to troll a little bit here, even though that's just the most ridiculous thing I could have ever said. Well, I mean, Bret Hart is a controversial figure in that sense where, his best work was on his way out in a situation that may or may have
promo
not
work. Best wrestling work. He had been doing it, like you said, 91, 92, 93.
But the best character, the one that got the most attention, is in 97. Was whiny ass Bret. He was great at it.
Like Stone Cold says, the best characters you are you turned up to 11, and that's exactly what he was.
Exaggerated versions of yourself.
It was great.
Well, I think we got out of this without me shitting on Bret too hard.
Well, where's he rank? Is he in your top 10?
Top 10, absolutely. For WWF stars, yeah. For everybody all time, I don't know.
Now, I don't think he's the greatest of all time. I rank Stone Cold above him for importance of wrestling.
Yeah, Stone Cold's above him.
I don't think you have anyone above
Hogan's
Stone Cold.
Him, Cena's above him. Shawn Michaels is above him in my mind. And honestly, I mean, match quality and everything like that. No, I mean, The Rock isn't even close. But if you're talking about who really drew money, who really drew houses, I'd have a tough time putting Bret over The Rock.
It's different with The Rock too. because Stone Cold was there, drawing so much.
I'd have trouble putting Bret over the Undertaker.
Brett didn't have a lot of people helping him pull the money in 94, 95, 96, you know. So.
That was actually one of Josh's point of view.
And like I said, he became a crossover star without anyone else there. So he tried. Think about how much bigger he could have been if there was another top guy there.
I will never say he didn't try. I will also say that he was definitely way better in his own head than anybody else.
Yeah, in my head too.
Bret Hart and John Thomas's head.
Another guy that's got a hot black wife like me. Me, Cody Rhodes, and Bret Hart, the greatest.
That's your crew?
Yes,
that's your running crew?
That's my crew.
I like it. David Bowie had a hot black wife too.
He's conjoined too. Bring him back.
David Bowie's corpse, yes. Cody Rhodes, Bret Hart, and John Thomas is the new stable.
That's a good stable.
Going today with their hot black wives.
That's a good stable.
Before you get to be the new Four Horsemen.
Yes.
You're a heel in my book. I'll tell you that.
That's fine with me.
That's a good way to end it.
That was a fun episode. That was a little bit different. We never really did one like that before.
I feel like we planned on pros versus cons Bret argument, and it kind of just was nice to just do a retrospective of Bret.
Yeah, it was cool.
I think so. I mean, like, again,
because we all do respect him.
My only con is where he is held in regard all time. I think it's a little too high. That's really my knock. That's where I would say that overrated comes in.
See, but you put Stone Cold so high. I mean, Bret's a big part of getting Stone Cold over.
I'm not denying that at all.
He's a big part of getting Shawn over.
Not denying that at all.
20 years ago, yeah. He's up there now. So much has happened over the last 20 years.
Now, it is rough because, like, you add guys like CM Punk in there,
Cena and Orton,
Bryan
and Punk and Bryan. Where do you put Bret all time? Is he better than those guys? And I have a tough time.
Triple H, you add him in there?
There's no way he's over Triple H in my book.
I think so.
And Bret Hart might come in here and sharpshooter me for saying that out loud because he hates Triple H.
According to him, just like a year ago, he said Triple H still can't lace up his boots.
Actually, I heard that.
We could close this out with doing some Bret Hart impressions. Which, by the way, I do kind of want to close this out. That Patrick Hayes, my dear friend, who I hate quite a bit also, said that it's not fun doing Bret promos. It's fun doing Bret in real life. It's fun talking like Bret does in the shoot interviews because he always, and I'll give you an example.
Okay,
so I got to the 94 King of the Ring with Diesel, and I gave him the best match of his life at that point. Diesel was green, never had a good match before, and I told Vince that I could give him a good match. And I could get a good match out of Diesel and Sid. A lot of guys that just couldn't work.
You sound like Lars Ulrich more than Bret Hart.
I could get a good match out of these guys. I just wanted to win with a sharpshooter in the middle of the ring, and Triple H still sucks my balls. And best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. It's more fun to do Bret in real life, where you do the big gulps and just putting yourself over shamelessly.
And that's one reason I love Bret, and I do believe him about a lot of stuff because he seems super honest, and he's honest
about himself because he thinks he's a mark for himself.
He's never over the top with anything, really. So
he's over the top for his whole career.
Whatever.
If you ask Bret, he fucking carried Isaac Yankem to a 5-star match. Like, he's never had a bad match in his life. Like, he legit crushed all of his ribs in a match against Casino Bravo, but still rolled in the finish because I couldn't let a guy like that beat me. This guy was underneath, and I was, couldn't have the fans see a guy like that take me out. Like, you crushed all your ribs on the fucking railing, guy. Just calm down a little bit.
He's a good guy.
You say, I don't know that he is. Did work a show at the Canton Civic Center with him, shook his hand, very polite to me then. Yeah, you want to smell my hand? Someone smelled like that 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. Well, I guess
man, this has been a fun day.
it has. It's been a It's been quite a day. I apologize for. I was kind of checked out for a minute between not knowing half the shit you were talking about and having to fucking play producer over here.
You've produced well,
it's almost like I
pal,
wasn't here.
And we got plenty of Bret Hart stuff to watch. You got some catching up to do, buddy.
I do. I guess next time John comes around, I'll be a little bit more.
I'm sorry. Thanks for having
educated.
me. But sorry if I took over some Bret Hartness. I get the blood gets flowing for the Bret Hart, you know.
No, I believe
Blood
it.
gets flowing where? Is Kiana going to get jealous?
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, again, thanks for joining us, sir. That said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, facebook.com/Ohio Wrestlecast. Or no. So Matt Archer Media. I think I said that on the last one, too. That doesn't actually exist yet. I'm working on it, though.
It will by the time it'll be out. That's your deadline.
I got to make a deadline now? Is that what you're saying?
So, because you're telling everybody to check it out. So, of course, you're the one who puts this out, so it's up to you.
Next episode, I'll let you know, people. Yeah, I guess. Is there anything I say before we go?
Man, this has been a lot of fun. We got John, we got a friend of the show, and if anybody else is listening, man, let us know. Talk some wrestling with us. If we can get a chance to get somebody on to talk wrestling with us, we'll gladly take you. Justin, our boy, Colin McGuire, talked to me a little bit, said he's a fan of the show. Was interested in getting his own podcast started.
He just texted me the other day and asked me what your podcast was, so I sent him the iTunes
The Ohio Wrestlecast.
Nice.
Colin McGuire, man, check us out. My old friend Tim Shady, which I like way more than Slim Shady because Eminem fucking sucks. Tim Shady, Tim DeBose, hit me up saying he was a big fan of our podcast. Came up with him in the business. Was very interested in our show. So thanks, guys, for listening, man. And
For sure.
Again, click that subscribe button. Helps a lot. Helps us get moved up the list. Suggest it to any of your friends. Want to hear some dudes talk some shit about wrestling, man. We always have a great time, and we appreciate everybody checking us out.
Absolutely.
Merch available soon. That sweet ass logo we got going back there. Apparently, you can have it as a shower curtain, which I want.
Yeah, you can have a shower curtain.
And if you'd like to see me demonstrate that shower curtain,
shoes.
I'm also on Tinder. Wait, no.
Grinder.
Grinder.
I am not on Grinder. We have merch coming out soon, man.
For
Really
sure.
cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, I guess with that said, until next time.
Bye, Internet.
Bye. I love Bret Hart.